I can't stand this team.
Why?
Because they always wet the bed. They make me sick. I mean, they really do. Now listen, let's...
The goal of basketball is to put the ball in the basket. However, throughout basketball history, the most effective methods for doing that have changed dramatically. Statistics, film study, and analytics have provided teams with new ways of seeing the game, resulting in drastic changes. In this series, I will be analyzing the top offensive team in each of the last 7 years, breaking down what systems and players helped them to achieve success, as well as how offense has evolved in order to hopefully answer the question, what makes an offense great in the modern NBA?
Father, this is Shaq. I said tonight that you are one of my favorite players, but you don't have what it takes to get to the next level. I said it on purpose. I want you to hear it. What do you have to say about that?
All right.
I've got a question. Who is the most winning player in the NBA? This question can be interpreted in a lot of ways, but one purely statistical way to look at it is through winning percentage. Obviously, the flaw with this is that winning is a team accomplishment. Less skilled players can achieve higher winning percentages if they play with better teammates. So you can adapt the question. Who is the most winning first option in the NBA? The answer to that question might surprise you. This graph shows the winning percentage of NBA players in the first half of the 2020s. It only features players who have led their teams in usage rate, making them the first option of their team. In the lower half of the list, we see primarily younger players who haven't been built around yet, like Cade Cunningham, Victor Wembanyama, LaMelo Ball, and Paolo Banchero. As we move towards the top of the list, we see some of the best players of the decade, like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Luka Doncic, and Devin Booker. The top of the list features MVPs and champions, like Giannis, Nikola Jokic, Jason Tatum, and Joel Embiid. And at the very top of the list is Donovan Mitchell. Mitchell doesn't exactly have the quintessential NBA superstar reputation. Most of the discourse around him is similar to what we saw from Shaq earlier. He's always seen as a solid all-star caliber player, but never in that top tier. However, I'd argue he meets all the criteria required to be a tier 1 player. We've already established his winning impact, which is the most important thing. Only he, Giannis, and Shai have been the best player on 2 number 1 seeds in the 2020s, and he did it on 2 different franchises. Some people like Magic Johnson will argue that in order to be considered a superstar, you need to be an exciting player who puts fans in seats. Mitchell won the dunk contest as a rookie, scoring 50s on all 4 of his dunks, putting his explosive athleticism on display. Typically, small guards who can elevate the way Mitchell can are marketed as must-see TV. He wasn't just a dunker either. In the first half of the 2020s, Mitchell has made the 3rd most threes in the entire NBA, only behind Stephen Curry and Buddy Hield. At least in my opinion, Donovan Mitchell is one of the most exhilarating players to watch in the game today. Another argument made by people like Bob Cousy is that to be a superstar, you have to sustain or improve your performance in the playoffs. And Donovan Mitchell is, without exaggeration, one of the greatest playoff performers of all time. For his 63-game playoff career, which is no small sample size, Mitchell ranks 7th all-time in playoff points per game with 28.3, better than all the NBA legends listed below. When converted to points per 36 minutes, he moves above LeBron James, Mr. Clutch, Allen Iverson, and Kevin Durant to 3rd, only behind Michael Jordan and Luka Doncic. To sum it up, he is statistically the most successful first option of the last half-decade. He is one of the most exciting players in basketball, dunking on guys for fun and splashing threes from range. And he is legitimately a playoff riser and one of the greatest playoff performers ever. When you compare him to superstars like Anthony Edwards or Cade Cunningham, his resume blows them out of the water. I truly believe that the only reason he isn't considered a superstar is because of his personality. Rather than being outspoken and aggressive, Mitchell is more humble and draws less attention to himself. But I find it a shame that his lack of arrogance has such a large detrimental effect on his reputation. All that being said, while he is consistently overlooked in these types of discussions, Mitchell doesn't receive anything close to the scrutiny of his co-star.
Wolt NBA player.
Oh, it's Rudy Gobert.
Oh my God, I knew you.
In 2025, an anonymous poll on NBA players was done by The Athletic. One of the questions asked was, who is the most overrated player in the NBA? Tyrese Halliburton took the most votes, and famously went on to have one of the greatest playoff runs in NBA history. However, in the 3 years that The Athletic has run this poll, one player has been named as a response to this question more than any other. Rudy Gobert came 4th in 2023, 2nd in 2025, and was named the league's most overrated player in 2024. Over the 3 years, he's accumulated 10.2% of total votes, narrowly beating out Trae Young for most votes. This is despite the fact that he is one of the best defensive players in the game. No player in NBA history has won more Defensive Player of the Years than Rudy Gobert. The large majority of his criticism comes on the offensive end, where Shaquille O'Neal once called him the worst player of all time. I think this is blasphemy. Firstly, Gobert is arguably the best roll man in the NBA. This is a graph of points and points per possession of NBA players off roll man plays in 2022. As you can see, Gobert is towards the top right of the graph, making him one of the highest volume and highest efficiency players in the NBA. Being a good roll man not only leads to efficient offense for himself, but it also leads to easier shots for ball handlers, as defenses are wary of Gobert's lob threat. Secondly, Gobert is the best screener in the NBA. While screening isn't exactly a glamour stat, a good screen is the difference between a heavily contested shot and a wide open one. The box score credits assists for players who set up a shot by passing, but it does not credit screeners even though they are similarly impactful. In 2022, Gobert led the NBA with 6.3 screen assists per game, and his screens contributed to a massive 15.3 points for his team. When he wasn't setting screens on offense, he was crashing the glass to grab offensive rebounds. Gobert pulled in 3.7 offensive rebounds per game, ranking 6th in the NBA. An offensive rebound is one of the most valuable single stats an NBA player can have, because it gives a team another offensive possession while preventing a valuable transition opportunity for the opponent. An offensive rebound becomes even more valuable if the player can turn it into a putback, where Gobert had the second most points in the league. This was again done on ridiculously high efficiency. He isn't exactly the greatest isolation scorer with the deepest bag in NBA history, but he didn't need to be. The Jazz needed somebody to provide value through screening, rolling, and grabbing boards, and he was absolutely the man. Because of this, the Jazz were actually marginally better on offense when he was on the court, posting a 117.4 offensive rating compared to 117.3 when he was off. He isn't an offensive dynamo, but he's a far cry from the worst player in NBA history. And this is to say nothing of his massive plus 7.1 point defensive impact. In my opinion, Gobert is without a shadow of a doubt the most overhated player in the NBA. Despite his reputation as a woeful offensive player, he managed to form a key component of the NBA's best offense. I think that part of the reason that this Jazz team doesn't get the credit it deserves is because their offense was extremely simple. Every other team in this series brought something groundbreaking and exciting. The Rockets were pioneers in the field of data analytics. The Warriors changed the game with their off-ball movement. The Mavericks were the first to hand keys to European stars, and the Nets had arguably the most talented roster ever. The Jazz offense centered around the traditional pick and roll, just as they had done in the past with Darren Williams and Carlos Boozer, or even further back with John Stockton and Karl Malone. This is a graph of points against efficiency on pick and roll ball handler possessions for teams in the NBA in 2022. The Jazz were far and away leaders in both points and efficiency. They just did the basics better than everyone else. Of course, their primary ball handler for these actions was Donovan Mitchell. His dual threat of shooting and slashing made him extremely difficult to contain, leading him to rank near the top of the league in both pick and roll points and efficiency as an individual. Utah also had the secondary ball handling of Mike Conley. There is perhaps no player in NBA history who exemplifies the saying, doing the basics right, better than Conley. Relative to all the guards in the NBA in 2022, Conley ranked 74th percentile for efficiency, 56th percentile for assists, 76th percentile for turnover rate, 70th percentile for mid-range shooting, and 91st percentile for three-point shooting. He wasn't exactly elite in any area, but he was solidly above average everywhere, consistently adding value and keeping the offense steady on non-Mitchell possessions. Finally, to carry their bench unit, the Jazz had 2021 Sixth Man of the Year Jordan Clarkson. He was your quintessential spark plug scorer, and he had the ability to bail the Jazz out during a dead offensive possession. This is a graph of points against effective field goal percentage for players on shots taken with less than 4 seconds on the shot clock. Having Clarkson as a backup option if their primary offense failed gave the Jazz offense an extremely high floor. The Jazz offense was very simple, but that's because it followed a template that had been proven to be successful throughout basketball history. Doing the basics right was enough to give the Jazz the league's best offense. In the 2022 playoffs, the Utah Jazz matched up against the Dallas Mavericks in the first round. If you watched my video on the Mavericks, you will know how this story ends. Despite not having Luka Doncic for the first 3 games, Jalen Brunson stepped up as the Mavericks beat the Jazz in 6 games. This is part of a recurring pattern. In 2021, the 1-seeded Jazz lost to the 4-seeded Clippers in 6 games, despite the Clippers missing Kawhi Leonard for the last 2 games. Even going back to 2020, the Jazz blew a 3-1 lead to lose 4-3 to the Nuggets in the first round. These playoff collapses are the reason why this iteration of the Jazz received so much hate, and it's easy to see why. But let's take a minute to actually break down the exact causes of these playoff failures. Firstly, the issue did not come on offense. They didn't have the best offensive series against the Mavericks, but over a 3-year, 25-game sample size between 2020 and 2022, the Jazz averaged a 118.1 offensive rating. And this isn't just good, it's far and away the best offensive rating out of any team in that 3-year sample. Clearly, the issue came defensively. With the belief that Rudy Gobert's defense is not impactful in the playoffs, the Jazz decided to trade away both Mitchell and Gobert in the 2022 offseason. I believe that this was the wrong decision, as their offense was already proven to be elite. I strongly believe that the Jazz could have succeeded on defense while keeping the same core and making minor moves for perimeter defenders. While this isn't a defensive breakdown, I find it noteworthy that Rudy Gobert's Timberwolves were an above-average playoff defense in each of the last 2 seasons. Both Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert wanted to try again, but they never got the opportunity. The Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert Utah Jazz are the most hated team in NBA history. Despite never getting superstar recognition, Donovan Mitchell has the exciting playstyle, winning results, and playoff performances of a franchise player. Rudy Gobert is one of the greatest defense players of all time, and at least a neutral, if not slightly positive offensive player. Yet, he's consistently disrespected by media, fans, and players alike. While it's true they've had some playoff disappointments, which mainly stem from their defensive issues, Mitchell and Gobert's performances on their new teams tells me that with some slight retooling around them, they could have been successful together. They might not have been the most groundbreaking team in the league, but the Utah Jazz were one of the best offenses of the
And down with Malik Monk. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Light it!